The two diversion episodes in the Book of Boba Fett got a very strange response from Star Wars fans, including myself. The general consensus seemed to be that the content was great, but it was odd to see it all happening in a show about Boba Fett, meaning the title character only had one scene and 0 lines in 2 whole episodes. When it happened in Chapter 5, I was fully on board because the themes being explored through Din and his journey matched up very well with Boba Fett's story. I wrestled with Chapter 6 more. I still do think it was a weird choice to split our time between Boba Fett and Luke Skywalker. I think saving the Luke stuff for The Mandalorian's 3rd season might have made more sense and allowed the scenes to breathe a little more, but I do want to try to dive into Chapter 6 again a couple weeks later and see how everything with Grogu and Luke Skywalker is relevant to the ideas we saw on display throughout the rest of the season. I would say the biggest theme in the Book of Boba Fett is community over isolation, which is Star Wars to its core. I brought up this George Lucas quote in 2 of my reviews for episodes over the past couple months, but he said, "The more I studied anthropology, it became very obvious to me that one of the most important issues humans have to deal with is that the group that cooperates are much stronger than they are when cannibalizing themselves. That allowing personal greed to overrun a situation is a serious negative, and that caring about people, trying to help other people, and to move the world forward in a more compassionate manner is the best way." Boba Fett lives with the Tuskens and learns to help a community thrive instead of continuing to choose a life by himself where he only cares about making more money, power, and notoriety. The tribe he builds with Finnick, the Mods, Black Chrysanthemum, the people of Freetown, and so on are all able to stand together to defeat the Pike Syndicate and save their planet. In the same way, the 2 episodes that center on the Mandalorian, Grogu, and Luke are in line with those basic ideas, because the overarching story is about Grogu choosing between 2 tribes. He can choose the way of the Mandalore or the way of the Jedi, and he chooses family over what many fans would consider to be the greatest destiny a Star Wars character can achieve. He had a chance to be a great Jedi, and he chose Din instead. I'm not crazy about how quickly Grogu and Din's separation ended after the way Season 2 of The Mandalorian introduced that idea, but I can at least see what they were trying to say by presenting their reunion in this series. I've seen some people say Grogu made the wrong choice, or suggest that choosing family over duty is a failure of character or something, and I don't think that's right at all. First, the Jedi aren't the only way to serve the light side. As Luke says in The Last Jedi, to say that if the Jedi die, the light dies is vanity. There was also recently a great scene in the main Star Wars comic by Charles Soule where Luke is able to speak with the Jedi Master Elzar Mann from the High Republic, and he also tells Luke that the Jedi Order is just a framework for understanding the Force and using it safely to protect life and light. The important thing is to make choices that feel right, that are true to you and the person you want to be. Luke could sense that Grogu's heart was not with the Jedi, and he allowed the child to make the decision that was right for him. And we immediately see that once they are reunited, Grogu is using the training he received from Luke to serve the light side. He protects Din from the Scorpinek droids, and he protects Mos Espa from the Rancor. When the creature is terrorizing the city, Grogu steps out into the street and uses the Force to peacefully calm it down and put it back to sleep. Jedi are not using his powers to defend others is light side, which is a far cry from many of the other times we have seen him using the Force to attack Cara Dune or Moff Gideon's stormtroopers. I went into detail on Din's episode, Chapter 5, already, and talked about how he fell back into old habits of bounty hunting without Grogu, and he realized he didn't quite fit into that world anymore. Like Boba Fett, he has a greater calling, one that the Darksaber represents, but he hasn't embraced that calling yet. I think the Book of Boba Fett shows us over and over that the solitary, violent life of a bounty hunter leads to a lonely death, and that's the life we see Din leading at the start of Chapter 5. We are shown the loneliness Boba Fett felt every time he was left on Kamino by his father, who was presumably going off to hunt bounties. We're given a similar shot of Din leaving Grogu to his training, and I wonder if Grogu knows that his dad needs him. He might know Din will head down a dangerous path again. Maybe that informs his decision to return. Before wrapping up, I want to talk about Luke and what he's going through creating his Jedi Temple. There was a lot of discussion surrounding the choice he gave to Grogu. One of the big arguments I saw was that it was out of character for him to be so against attachments when it was his attachment to his father that brought Vader back to the light and helped save the galaxy. And of course, there's Han and Leia, who he had strong attachments to. I do think it's interesting that in a show about tribes and community, Luke is currently completely without his. This isn't a shock, it's consistent with the way Luke is discussed in books like Bloodline, but it is a stark contrast to legend stories where Luke, Han, Leia, Chewie, and Lando all continue to have tons of adventures together. By the way, this is not me saying Legends is better than canon or vice versa, it's just a difference that jumped out of me since I read all those books growing up. Anyway, Luke is attempting to build a new tribe of Jedi, so this isolation isn't permanent, for now, but we know that his Jedi Academy is going to lead to ruin and Luke's exile. From what we've been shown, I do think Luke is repeating some of the mistakes of the Jedi of the Clone Wars, and I don't blame him. He's still a fairly new Jedi with absolutely no safety net. It doesn't seem like Yoda or Obi-Wan are meeting up with him every day for guidance, and even if they did, their advice in the original trilogy wasn't always good. Ahsoka is around for a bit, but not for long. This is all mostly speculation at this point. We don't really know how Luke's training temple went or what kind of teaching style Luke used, but I do think it's interesting seeing Luke so separated from the tribe we're used to seeing him with, as well as being in the midst of trying to get a new tribe started, like Boba Fett. Those are the biggest thematic connections I could make from Luke and Grogu's story back to the rest of the Book of Boba Fett. I'll admit, I don't feel quite as satisfied with this as I did about Din's side of the story in Chapter 5, but I did my best. Let me know how you think Luke's story informs the rest of the series in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel to keep up with all our Book of Boba Fett coverage, and consider checking out our Patreon page for even more. We released video reactions and audio commentaries for every episode as they came out. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.